I visited Hawthorne Scholastic Academy, which is a Chicago public school in the Lakeview neighborhood. I met with the principal and the guidance counselor to discuss PBIS implementation. A little background information on Hawthorne. It's a kindergarten through 8th grade school serving nearly 600 students. It's a level 1 school. CPS rates schools according to their performance policy, and level 1 is the highest rating. The rating is based on various factors of annual achievement, progress, and attendance, and the student growth and student attainment are measured as far above average in both math and reading at Hawthorne, and this is based on the NWEA Measures of Academic Progress Assessment. Prior to the implementation of PBIS, Hawthorne did not have significant discipline referrals or suspensions. The principal didn't have hard data to provide, but he described the discipline issues as being below average for the district. The CPS My Voice My School report shows that Hawthorne averaged 0.4 suspensions per every 100 students the year prior to implementation, while the district averages 13 suspensions per 100 students. However, the principal and the counselor both stated that there was a lot of frustration amongst staff members because there weren't clear, consistent guidelines for behavior expectations or procedures, and everyone was doing something different and communicating different expectations to the students. PBIS at Hawthorne began with the current administration. The principal observed the lack of consistency regarding expectations and procedures, and he used student and staff surveys to determine different areas of weakness. He concluded that there was a need for PBIS, and the staff spent about a year learning about PBIS prior to implementation. The principal did warn that Hawthorne's implementation of PBIS is not yet fully formed. He described the school's primary goal with PBIS as helping students develop appropriate behaviors, as well as increasing social and emotional learning within the school. The staff spent a year learning about PBIS. Key members, including the counselor and the librarian, attended PBIS trainings, and all staff members participated in professional readings to learn more about PBIS. The individuals that were trained outside the school brought the information back to the school and trained the rest of the staff. The buy-in process for staff members was described as slow. Hawthorne is a high-achieving school with relatively few disciplinary concerns, so many of the staff members did not initially see the need for PBIS. However, after about a year of implementation, many staff members are beginning to see some of the benefits, and there's more emphasis being placed on recognition and more value being placed on character and not just academics. The counselor perceived the student buy-in in grades K through 5 to be quite high. Students enjoy earning tickets, they like to be recognized and earn different rewards. But the buy-in at the middle school level was described as more difficult, and the students tend to buy in only as much as their teachers do. The initial reactions from parents and families were also not totally positive at first. Many families were initially resistant and thought that the PBIS model sounded authoritative and restrictive. And although many of them recognized the importance for social and emotional learning, they didn't make that connection to the PBIS model. I noted that the parent-teacher partnerships were perceived as weak by parents on the My Voice My School survey. Community involvement was identified by the principal as an area of weakness. However, the auditorium at Hawthorne is frequently used for events which are put on by the alderman, and past events included a parent workshop on bullying and a workshop on social and emotional learning. Several collaborative teams within the school are important to PBIS implementation. One critical team is the Instructional Leadership Team, or the ILT. The ILT meets weekly, and it's made up of teachers, cultural leaders, and go-getters. The membership can shift depending on what the goals are. The principal said that the ILT was tied directly to PBIS because one of the priorities within the school improvement plan revolves around social and emotional learning. The principal is the primary facilitator and the leader. When I inquired specifically about a PBIS team, the principal said that they didn't have a PBIS team, but instead they have a social and emotional learning team. And the key facilitator for PBIS in the building is the school counselor. Hawthorne also uses professional learning communities, or PLCs, within their building. The principal described effective PLCs as one of the top school improvement priorities, and each member of the ILT is responsible for updating their PLC on the priorities, including the social and emotional learning priority, which includes PBIS. The principal also stated that a major goal of the PLCs is to mobilize the teachers around those priorities so that they can develop them collaboratively. Finally, this school utilizes the Olveus Bully Prevention Program and has a team focused on bullying prevention. There are several universal supports and practices in place currently. The universal expectations at Hawthorne are referred to as the HSA Way. The HSA Way is respect self, respect others, and respect environment. And the HSA Way posters were visible throughout the building in several different areas. Also posted were setting specific expectations for the HSA Way. The Everyday Heroes program utilizes a ticket system to recognize students for following the HSA Way. Any staff member can issue tickets to students, and the students then show that to their homeroom teacher, and they are recognized in the classroom. The homeroom teacher marks the ticket on a classroom chart, and when the class earns 20 total, the teacher provides the class with some type of a rewarding activity. Larger end of semester activities, such as a dance, can be earned when the class reaches 100 tickets. Additionally, students who go above and beyond are nominated for the Everyday Hero, and if they're chosen, they get a shout out from the principal over the intercom. All students who are nominated receive a bookmark, and then students who are chosen to be announced over the intercom are invited to attend a special breakfast. Effective classroom management is considered a critical prevention practice. I inquired about behavioral expectations at the classroom level, and the principal said that classroom teachers have the HSA Way posted, as well as the classroom setting expectations which align with the HSA Way. A weekly character quote is also posted and discussed. Classroom teachers and grade levels are given discretion as to which classroom expectations they will have, as long as they're aligned with the universal expectations. The majority of disciplinary issues are effectively handled through the use of the positive supports, and minor disciplinary issues are handled by classroom teachers. Physical violence and blatant disrespect were described as being worthy of an office referral or more targeted supports. Hawthorne utilizes the Olveus Bullying Prevention Program, and this program also began with the current administration. The students completed surveys regarding bullying behavior in 2011, and it was clear that there were various types of bullying behavior that were occurring in the school. Staff were trained on Olveus, and school rules about bullying were introduced to the students, and all staff members are responsible for intervening in any bullying behavior. Teachers hold meetings with students and parents regarding bullying, and students involved in bullying may require individual intervention plans or more targeted supports. Hawthorne does have the Olveus team, and bullying behavior is monitored by classroom teachers and the counselor through classroom interventions and referrals for more intensive supports. The universal supports were fairly obvious within the school, but there were fewer specific examples of Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports being utilized. Students that are not responding to the universal supports at Hawthorne are moved into targeted groups for Tier 2 interventions. Tier 2 interventions can be provided by classroom teachers or by other staff members within the building. And a common Tier 2 practice that was described was a mentoring system called check-in, check-out. And each student checks in and out with a mentor at the beginning and end of the day. And mentors could be any adult in the school that has developed a positive relationship with that student. The principal also identified restorative justice as another intervention, which is implemented either at the classroom level or with the guidance counselor or administration. There really was limited evidence of Tier 3 interventions being consistently implemented, and this was identified as an area which needed improvement. However, it was also stated several times by both the counselor and the principal that there are very few serious and chronic behavioral issues within the school. There were 3 barriers to PBIS implementation at Hawthorne that were identified by the principal and the counselor. First, cultural awareness was identified as a critical area of concern. The principal stated that many minority students, particularly those from low SES backgrounds, do struggle at Hawthorne because the school isn't willing to understand culture. closing the achievement gap, and developing cultural awareness are considered high priorities for the principal. A lack of consistency was also identified as a barrier to implementation, and although both the principal and the counselor stated that great strides have been made through beginning to implement PBIS, the buy-in from staff members continues to be slow and needs to be improved. Finally, the principal identified a lack of general understanding of the reasons behind PBIS as a barrier to its implementation. He is working through the ILT to help staff understand the difference between monitoring and diagnosing, and he feels that many of the staff members perceive PBIS as being mostly about compliance as opposed to helping students achieve social, emotional, and academic success. Some final thoughts about my visit are that Hawthorne is definitely not yet fully implementing PBIS, but the principal seemed aware of the different strengths and weaknesses within the school's current level of implementation, and the plan is to focus on staff buy-in and continued professional development to get deeper understanding of the reasons for and the goals of PBIS. In my brief time there, I noted that the school seemed to have a strong implementation of the universal behavioral expectations and supports. The targeted interventions and partnerships with families seemed to be areas which needed further development. I saw little evidence of monitoring and evaluation procedures for their program. The principal did identify data collection and use as an area that also needed improvement. And one monitoring procedure that was described was principal walkthroughs to check that teachers had expectations posted, quotes, character quotes posted, and then he would give feedback from the walkthrough at the ILT and the PLC meetings. Data is collected on discipline referrals, but it was difficult to get any clear-cut information on the exact procedures, and it was unclear how that data is used to inform decisions of how PBIS has affected behavioral outcomes. I think Hawthorne may be somewhat unique in that they had relatively few behavioral concerns or office referrals before they started implementing PBIS. Finally, in my discussions with the principal and the guidance counselor, they both stated that they felt PBIS was having positive outcomes for students. The principal said that the school felt calmer in general, and prior to PBIS, it seemed like there was not really a clear understanding of what the environment should look like. Again, it was difficult for me to assess the program outcomes at this level of implementation because I was not made privy to any data or assessment measures that may or may not be being used. I think systematic procedures, if they aren't being used for monitoring data and assessing outcomes, would be another area for further development at the school. Overall, I really enjoyed my experience of visiting Hawthorne, especially since I teach for a CPS school. It was interesting to see how a school in my own district is implementing PBIS. Thank you for watching.